Welcome back to ViperMusashi versus Omee. It's going to be game number 3 on Merry-Go-Round. This is a very interesting map, as it is quasi-symmetrical. I don't know what the word is. Basically, symmetric in thirds. Basically, it's the same this way for each triangle. And yeah, this map is actually the most standardish one we've seen so far. But we'll get more to that in a moment, as we have our player who took the first game but unfortunately lost the second one. It is our light pink player, DJ's Omee. In the top right of the map, we have his opponent in the red, but also the Zerg pieces. Picked up the second game and brought it back to 1-1. It's time for us to play for all the pieces, folks. It is ViperMusashi. So anyway, as I was saying, basically, your choice of third changes on this map pretty much based on where your opponent is positioned. Say, for example, that Viper was instead down here, location number 3. His opponent would be off to his left, and after taking this natural, he would take his third most likely over here, because it's the farthest away from your opponent and therefore going to be a little bit more awkward to attack. But since he's up here, if he takes this farther third base, he's actually putting it closer to his opponent, and it will make it easier to harass. Which means that this location, most likely, yes, this location would end up getting taken. I think a lot of players would default to this, just because it's going to probably be a little bit easier to deal with just from close defense standpoint. I mean, you can keep your army much more tight together. But that is still, like, it's a consideration that he can't really even make in this situation, because taking this base up here is not a good idea. In any case, we may not ever have thirds, because it's the way the show match has been going so far. Both of these players have shown a tendency to end things in the mid game, or even the early game. So at this point, we've got both players going for an expansion, and nobody actually gone for a spawning pool just yet. There it goes from ViperMusashi. We should see one from Omee in actually just a moment. Players commenting on the size of the map that it's actually pretty large, and yes, it is. It is definitely true. It's not as big as it could be, just because these walls down here that you see all the way along the edge of the map, these are actually path blockers for air as well, so it's a little bit, can be a little bit tricky to maneuver around, but they do make it at least so that it's harder to hide buildings in the corners of the map, which those of you who suffer from dealing with that against Terran would probably be happy to hear. In any case, just speaking from experience, which is so far, maybe casting 4 games on it, this is the map that seems to turn out the most expected, oddly enough, despite the fact that it's a 3-player map. It's pretty much just the one that's more than likely going to create mid to late game style scenarios, because it's just difficult to trick your opponent on this map, at least in terms of simple little things like positioning. Oh, sorry about that. I really should just straight up turn off scroll when I'm casting. This is clearly not doing me any good. There we go, it's much better. I can just move my mouse all over the place, and you guys won't be able to become nauseous in this process. Anyway, Queen's coming out here, nothing particularly fantastic or insane. Well, double gas is going on here. That's actually pretty unusual. Second base picked up from here. I think Omee is actually trying to go into perhaps mute attack. You don't really see this happen too often without it. I mean, he could just be going for roaches as well. We'll have to wait and see. If he grabs the 2 gases down here, though, that's the 2-base muted play, I think. Memory's a little fuzzy on that one, because I haven't seen anybody try that in a while. Looks like Viper's going straight to roaches, though. Gonna need some more gas to really be able to support that in the long run. He's building up a decent amount that gets him out pretty quickly. Oh, macro hatchery. Looks like Omee is going to use this just for some additional production. Solid decision, all things considered. Getting that queen out a little bit earlier than he needs it for the hatchery, so he can continue that creep spread. This is an indicator, actually, that Omee isn't going for an airplay style, just because in ZVZ, creep helps your enemy as much as it helps you. So if you're spreading creep around the map and you're planning on going for flying units, that's not necessarily a good idea, because your opponent, if he's going for a ground army, will actually get decreased walk time to your base. On the other hand, it can still be useful for scouting purposes, but let's just say that the disadvantage to making your opponent faster is a little bit more of a concern. In any case, ViperMusashi, getting those roaches out. This Overlord is actually maybe gonna see what spawns out of here. Maybe, maybe no. Dies just before the roaches are gonna come out. Okay. Back over here we have still roaches. Okay, so that's what he's doing. Roaches, he has the 2 gases though. So he can actually go up into another piece of tech soon if he wants. Or just go for a lot of upgrades. There's the 7 roaches popping out. Okay. +1 missile attacks being researched by Viper. This could give him a very nice edge in an engagement if Omee delays on this too much longer. Be a little bit of a timing there. But we'll have to wait and see. This is another funky... This is actually the only funky thing about this map, is that there's this 400 mineral pile of debris, which I have frankly no idea why that's there. And this is coming from, like, I'm a Protoss player, guys. I build the walls. I gotta build the walls in every map. And believe me, before we start using this new map pool, I will probably just do a bunch of AI games and figure out how I want to build my walls. But these rocks are strange to me, because this doesn't seem like a particularly gigantic ramp. But, like, does this necessary, or is this just a interesting feature that they decided to put there? I don't know. We'll have to see. So I think that's the same size as the one on Habitation, I want to say. Maybe a little bigger. Maybe that's why. Maybe it is just a hair breadth bigger or something. Enough for it to be an issue. Like to force you to put a pylon on the wall or something. I don't know. I'm theory crafting because I'm waiting for these guys to finish their upgrades and attack each other. So we got to kill our time for a bit here. Omee's getting +1/+1. His opponent is still only operating on a single evolution chamber. So while he will have the faster +1, he will actually quickly fall behind in upgrades if he waits for too long. So it looked like Viper's comment about don't be afraid of a macro game was enough to get Omee to actually try for a macro game. So that's what he's doing here. He's put down the hatchery at the 3rd, and this could be a key point of contention. If we see Viper actually build up his army a little bit more and go out for a push, this is most likely what they're going to be fighting over a lot. But as you can see here, Omee's expanding to this 3rd location. It's a little farther away from his opponent. It's going to be a little bit more awkward for his opponent to engage into that. And just because of the angle that he's coming from. We'll see if Viper actually picks the same base or not. Little blast of lings running across the map. I'm just going to call them blasts. It's a totally wrong term for it, but why not? Yeah, there he is. He's taking that 3rd base right just below his base rather than the closer one to his opponent. Unfortunately doing it right under an overseer, so these lings are most likely going to run down here and force the cancel. That's a lot of damage coming out from them, and I actually don't think he can save that, even though his army is definitely superior. Does get the cancel, at least. It saves most of the minerals. Down come Viper's lings in order to deal with this. And just push it out of the way. There comes the Overseer, which, holy crap, those things are quick when they have Overlord speed. It's a little spyling. It's going to hang out with the army down here. Nope. Just running it out in the middle. Viper will actually notice that pretty quickly, most likely. If they didn't kill it already. Nope, so it's actually running around with the army. Nice. Nice move on his part. On Omee's. He's got this position kind of locked down, but he actually should get to building the space if he wants to do so soon, just because Omee's already finished his, and that's going to be a pretty nice edge in terms of mining. Not so much in production. He's already got the 3 hatcheries worth of production. But here we go. Nice flock of roaches already out. The roaches now have 1-1. Omee is a little bit on the upside in terms of the upgrade score. Lings and roaches moving out across the map. Looks like he's going to try and fight over this 3rd location here. Viper is going to have an advantage in the form of Hydra Tech. I don't think he has quite enough Hydras to actually make use of that, obviously, because he's only got the 1. But does he have a few more in the back? Nope. Omee still making great use of this changeling, allowing him to see the positioning of Viper's army at any time. And it looks like Omee has decided, okay, that's a little bit too awkward for me, so I'm not going to engage into that. Lings running forward to try and do some damage against Omee. Looks like Viper wasn't paying too close attention, then loses a bunch of Lings for free and has to back off. Missile attacks level 2 completed. Groove Spine's completed for Viper. So he's moved up to +2 attack. Still has no armor, but he's going to have a lot of Hydras, if he can get them out, that are going to be very, very, very powerful with this army. It's going to come down to if he can have enough to tank for the Hydras, I think. Presuming he gets to a critical mass of them. He's still pretty far away from Muscular Augments upgrade, which he's going to want if he wants to actually bring them out across the map. It's pretty difficult for Hydras to make it back, though. At the rate that this creep is spreading, this upgrade may actually be completely unnecessary. The changeling made from the army and actually going to run across the map. We'll see if ViperMusashi doesn't pick up on this one. Suspicious Ling hanging out by the front by the queen. And no, Viper does miss it yet again. Okay. So Omee knows the exact positioning of this army and is moving away from it as he sees it responding to his movement to the north. Moving back to the south, and instead we have a nice ball of Lings and Roaches coming down here to the bottom. Omee definitely has a large enough army to take care of this, but he's not reacting, and the Lings are actually just going to run straight down to the third and try and focus it down. Here comes the Roaches and Lings to try and deal with that. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the hatchery right-click. Looks like he didn't think that he could either get it or a small error there. It does save a chunk of the Lings, though. So a decent amount of damage there. Kills a queen, a couple workers. Nothing particularly amazing to write home about there. Viper does actually have a pretty big advantage in workers right now. He's all the way up to 59, so he's on a 3 base economy versus opponent's basically 2 base economy, maybe 2.5, just because he has got a few workers, but he's still a little bit behind on that. And I think as time goes on here, the engagements are going to steadily favor ViperMusashi. I mean, Omee is going to be relying really heavily on this little Baneling ball he just made to do some really great damage to the Hydras, and this can work. If you can position the Banelings so that they hit from the side, basically so that they hit the Hydras at the beginning of the fight, then Omee's army, with its former upgrade advantage, but more rather with its just sheer numbers, can do a lot of good here. Now, running this out across the map right under an Overlord is not wise. He's actually just burrowed them right there under the Overlord, and I'm pretty sure Viper actually saw that, so I don't think we're going to see him try and engage that. Instead, he's going to send forward a few Lings, and really should send them one at a time. But yeah, he's just basically letting them know, hey, I know that those are there, don't try that. Okay. So Omee backs off. Looks like they might have an engagement here. This could... what he really doesn't want to have happen is for all the Banelings to simply die on the Roaches, giving the Hydras time for their damage to actually get into play in it. It looks like the Banelings are actually just stuck behind the wall of Roaches, not really doing much in this battle at all, allowing the Hydras to get a significant amount of damage in. Does lose a few of them. Drones go home! Losing a few drones in the battle is Omee accidentally in the... Wow, actually gone from... I think he lost 5 workers in that battle. Whoops. Small error. Unfortunately now, though, this is a pretty bad compositional disadvantage. He still has enough in the way of numbers to push this back, though. And Viper's going to just basically run on home. Does he actually have... Wait, does he have Roach speed? Oh, okay, that explains that. A lot of Hydras and Roaches coming to reinforce this army, though, and he's going to be able to push this out of there. Mutas are not going to be enough against the number of Hydras. He's actually just losing way too much here. And actually, this heavy investment in the Mutalisks, I think, is going to probably put Omee on the back foot here, as long as ViperMusashi doesn't forget that he has to macro and actually rebuilds his army. There we go. We've got some of it back here. He needs to join this up. Does not want to fight this this army again when his mutant numbers get too much bigger. But the thing is, I think he has too many Hydras now for that to even matter. Yeah, holy crap. 20 Hydras. 20 Hydras. And well, okay, so Omee's going to say, I'm going to go into Infestor Tech from here. This is pretty neat, only just judging from the Pathogen Glands upgrade, which those of you who maybe are not necessarily as familiar with StarCraft 2, which I don't think anybody here is, but if you're watching this on the VODs, this gives the energy boost to Infestors so that they come out with the Fungal Growth spell automatically usable. This is very, very good in a lot of different situations, but unfortunately here it's a bit of a desperation move. He can't, these units don't really clump up on top of each other. So throwing out the fungals onto the army isn't necessarily going to yield as much as, say, it would against the Muta ball or something like that, but the potential additional efficiency is very useful here. He's trying to block this base. Not able to make that happen. And it looks like the army of ViperMusashi is actually just going to move down here and try and engage in this location. I like how these changelings actually show up as red on the minimap. Interesting. Even for the observers, I mean. Army's now moving into position to engage. There's a lot of Lings and 2 Roaches in this army. I don't think that's going to be anywhere near what he needs for this, as the Hydras, just as they really obliterated Gateway Army against the Protoss, they're pretty good against Pure Ling too, and they pretty much run it over. Oh, gets pretty much all the Infestors right away. Does take a decent amount of fungal growth damage onto the Hydras, but there just isn't really anything to follow that up. In fact, for some reason, he's breaking off a ball of the Hydras and he's sending them to the 3rd base. He's just going to try and lock Omee in this location and try to do what he can down there, but he's pulled his army back together. Nope. And taking another fungal. If this keeps happening over and over again, Viper may actually lose this army. He's got to be a little bit more careful with this, especially with those Hydras, which don't get that fast regen, which is the whole reason for the burrow. He's not trying to hide his army right there, guys. He's going to tail the 3rd base in the attempted 4th pickup, and if he can pick up both of these and just get out of there, he's going to be in really good shape. Unfortunately, here comes Omee's army to engage at the back of this, and Viper's just going to sandwich it. There just isn't enough here. He's going to try to run the Infestor's way, but there's already detection in play. He kills off pretty much, yep, all the Infestors. There's only a handful of Mutalisks up here to actually deal with this, and it looks like our Red Zerg is going to take this, I think. Yep, GG.